Raceway Park, high traction quarter miles, sea level conditions, track records and national records, normally a byproduct. Again this weekend in the 12th annual O'Reilly Nationals, presented by Pennzoil. Competitions underway. Larry Dixon going to work. Look at that elapsed time number. 4.486 seconds, a new national record set in second round qualifying. Dixon in the far lane. If he didn't have a wheelie bar, he wouldn't have turned in that kind of a number. He did, and while we were watching, it took our breath away. And needless to say, driving for the snake, it took Larry Dixon's breath away as well.
Front end was up for a long time. I almost shut it off because it was way high for a lot longer than we normally do. It set the front end down and it blew smoke off the tires just like a 747 jet. It was a ride.
Congratulations.
It was a ride. Now Larry Dixon of Cardiff, California, Alan Hartley of Omaha, Nebraska, opening round. That's the True to Texas Dragster. That's what they call it this weekend, Steve Evans.
It will only run the 4 Texas races. Now, Larry Dixon qualified number 1. That means he meets the 16th, the slowest qualifier, and that is Alan Hartley, who should feel very good about making this program his first ever, because there is a superstar on the sidelines we'll talk about a little bit later.
Right, Gary Schultz, he didn't qualify. Can they afford to try and push Dixon's car to another 440?
Absolutely not. That was done in the cool of the evening. It is hot. It's 85 degrees. The humidity is up. The track temperature is up. No, that would be suicide to try to do that.
Pole shot for Dixon. Hartley's gone. Lost the blower belt. You saw it fly off. 461 at 315 miles an hour. Watch it again.
Well, I think the Dixon camp expect a little more than a 461. For Alan Hartley, we saw the blower belt come off, but a good effort all weekend long.
We're with you in Houston on TNN Motorsports. Much more coming up. Hi, everybody. I'm Eli Gold. Welcome to TNN's Race Central. We're here at Houston Raceway Park, the O'Reilly Nationals presented by Pennzoil. Steve Evans is alongside. This year has been a season full of records, and this is just race number 4 of 22. Can these records just keep on being broken week after week?
On good racetracks with good air, you get good performance. Dixon's wheels in the air, 448, stunned this crowd, much like about a month ago in Phoenix here on TNN when Tony Schumacher cranked out the sport's first ever 330-mile-an-hour blast. And in fact, on the pad right now is Tony Schumacher in a brand new car. Can you imagine parking the world's fastest dragster in favor of a new design?
He likes that new tall car, as does Joe Amato, as does Bob Vandergriff. Schumacher and Bruce Sarver set to go. Let's head down to the staging lanes. Continuing in round number 1, those two set to go. Sarver, interestingly, although now makes his money and fame here in Top Fuel, had an interesting start in his career.
That's right. He was an international go-kart driver before he went into stock cars in his hometown of Bakersfield, California. And Sarver's car is pretty typical of the 90s design. This is the car for the new millennium. Tony Schumacher, the X-Side Special. It is much taller, and when we see the front end of the car, you'll see that they've pushed the fuel tank way out over the front axle. And Tony will tell you that that's to lose about 25 pounds of lead off the front end. Use the fuel as ballast. Look how much taller the car on the left side of the screen is than the right.
4 inches taller, but it still has to have that 3-inch clearance on the bottom of the car to the ground. Sarver's up in smoke, and the tall car is rolling on. And look at those numbers there, 323, 456.
That is Tony's best effort of the entire weekend. Let's have another look. You'll see Sarver, a little too aggressive, possibly with the new 5-disc clutch, sets the front end down, and that's when it smokes the tires.
Hey, folks, you know what that means now? The guy who set the new ET record here the other day is going to meet that man who turned in the quickest run ever in NHRA history, that 330-plus at Phoenix. That's coming up shortly here on TNN Motorsports. Larry Dixon, Tony Schumacher squaring off in the next round. And don't forget Mike Dunn. Is he the odds-on favorite, as hot as he is, to win it all here this weekend? Find out when we come back to Houston Raceway Park. We are with you at Houston Raceway Park, NHRA Winston Drag Racing. The families are out in force. Heck, it's a great day, great sport. What else do you want? You're in the middle of Texas. Let's all go drag racing, and we are with you here on TNN Motorsports. And what have they all been doing this weekend? Everybody's cheering for the guy on the left. Eddie Hill, Texas native, but Mike Dunn with 2 wins this year. He's the series point leader. Going to be tough for Eddie to knock him off because Mike Dunn behind the wheel tells us when you're having a good year, you're just having a good year.
It's always better when you win. I mean, you sleep better at night. You know, the food tastes better. I mean, your wife looks better. I mean, everything. It's just winning really makes a big difference. But, you know, I've been around long enough, and, you know, we went 54 races without a win, and now we, you know, won 2 out of the first 3 races. It's a great feeling, but, you know, it's a tough field out there. Top field is as competitive as any motorsport class there is in the world, I think.
Be interesting to hear what his wife Sandy has to say about how do I look when you're losing. You're on board the Mopar Special owned by Daryl Gwynn. Mike Dunn taking on Eddie Hill. Mike Dunn had the 3 quickest elapsed times in history at the opening race. Now bet that Larry Dixon has that honor. And how about Eddie Hill? The fans here, this is home base for his sponsor, Pennzoil. There's yellow hats and shirts everywhere. They're riding with the oldest active sponsored professional race car driver in the world.
Reached the fastest speed of his career here in qualifying, 316 miles an hour. Smoke from Dunn. Eddie's going to advance, and Dunn is going home.
And the crowd goes wild, as they say. A 462, 304 miles an hour. That's a solid effort by the Thrill from Texas, Eddie the Thrill Hill. Now watch on the right-hand side. That is Mike Dunn. You'll see it lose a cylinder. See all the vapor coming out of the left-hand side. Well, that's like losing 700 horsepower. Here from the high camera hanging over the finish line, you get a more dramatic look at it. Losing power steadily to Eddie Hill. And you want a real good shot of it? How about on board? Watch the exhaust pipes, the headers as they call them, on the left-hand side. That cylinder is not firing. It puts a lot of strain on the rest of the motor. Pretty soon it's just too much for it to handle.
So Eddie Hill is going to advance. He hasn't won an NHRA Winston drag racing competition since Denver, Vandermeer, back in 1996. Maybe today is going to be the day. We'll all find out as he'll meet Bob Vandergriff in round 2. Well, as we used to say in Brooklyn, New York, who would have thunk it? Here's the man knocked out in round number 1, twice a winner already this year, and he's already on the way home.
Well, Dunn is feeling the pain, but these Texas fans were on their feet for their hero, the legend, 63-year-old Eddie Hill survives round 1 action.
So round number 1 is now complete. Let's bring you up to speed on everything that's taken place thus far. Earlier today, winless Bob Vandergriff defeating Jim Head, but that is not even half the story.
No, the story is how he won over Jim Head. With the wheels high in the air, right on the borderline of a blowover backwards, Vandergriff gently gets off the throttle, sets the car down hard enough to flatten the front wheels and break a couple of A-arms, but they have plenty of parts in the trailer, and I doubt the chassis has been at all.
518 at 278 miles an hour. Now the Bud King, Kenny Bernstein, and Randy Parks. Last we showed you Bernstein here on TNN. He was in the finals at Phoenix.
And here he was up against Randy Parks. Parks immediately smokes the tires. Bernstein is gone like the king of speed should be at 4.59, 314 miles an hour. In qualifying, he had a career best of 451.
Also in action today, Doug Herbert. He's got the No Bull Challenge going today. My buddy here, Steve Evans, pulled his number earlier today, the number 6 qualifier. If he wins the finals, he's got a $100,000 bonus from Winston.
That's right. He lost that $100,000 in Gainesville 3 weeks ago by a couple of inches. And here, a 462 over Doug Coletta. Could Herbert get the No Bull Challenge today?
Keep running conservatively, smoothly like that, and the money's in the bank. So let's see how your favorites did. All the elapsed time speeds right there. The yellow marks show who has advanced into round number 2. Eddie Hill, the lowest qualifier to advance. That surprise win over Dunn. And there's the ladder.
And remember, the quicker driver from the previous round gets lane choice, and that can be important on any racetrack.
Coming up, funny cars. That's not funny, John.
Been on the road too long, John boy.
You need some help down there?
Welcome back to Houston. You're looking particularly bullish today, Steve.
Well, thank you, Eli, but that's a cow. I can tell.
The only cows I recognize come with potatoes on the side. We are at Houston Raceway Park. Glad you're tuned in. Funny car time. There are the numbers. Top qualifiers seemingly all advancing. John Force, though he's the man, has Dean Scusa upcoming. Whit Bazemore, Del Worsham, Tony Pedregon, Gary Densham, Cruz Pedregon, and Tim Wilkerson. But can anybody touch John Force, Steve?
Oh, he is the man. The crowds treat him like a rock star, really. You can't even get close to his trailer, and John loves to go to the ropes. He said, this is my doctor's office. This is where I feel better.
Of course, he could also be the doctor the way he operates with surgical precision.
This was in qualifying. John Force, far lane, the Castrol Mustang. John came into Houston holding the national record. On this lap, he batters it, and later on backed it up within the required 1%. John Force picks up another 20 bonus Winston points, 479, whopping speed of 321.
And don't forget the MBNA bonus money also going to the man, John Force. Check out some of the numbers behind John Force, let alone the people who work alongside of him. The accomplishments are just remarkable. But you talk to some of the competitors out there, and I don't want to say that they're necessarily jealous, but maybe they're just tired of chasing John Force. Kind of like Al Hoffman had a few thoughts for us.
It's got to the point where it's not even fun racing a guy anymore. You know what I mean? Because we ran him the first round in Gainesville down there, and you know he'll make the car go as fast as he wants to. You know, it would not surprise me to see that car run a 60 in good conditions. You know, I mean, they've got a lot left in that car. It's straight as an arrow, and it's never in trouble. You know, I mean, if they turn a wick up on that thing, it'll go a lot faster.
Bottom line is, when Bernstein beat me up, I just focused on getting better. More fuel pumps, more tires. I had to have a computer because he had one. I had to have a Batmobile because he had one. I had to have automatic shifters because he had it. When Perdome was beating me up with when he had one fuel pump, but he had 10 in the trailer and I only had one, I focused to get 5 of those, get new tires on the car. We snuck around in the trenches, hid down behind Goodyear, and went in there and talked to guys to death and bought them beer to get them to give me the tire that was a little bit taller that they were going to give Perdome. I learned the game in the old days. When you went into Enderley, up on the wall, you'd say, look at all them fuel pumps. Can I have that one? They'd say, no, them 3 are for Perdomes. You know why? Because they flowed better. The king got what he wanted because he was the best. And now we're at that point where we demand what we want, and if we can't get it, we build it ourselves. And so the point is, that's what they have to focus on.
You know, you can hear where Hoffman's coming from, but face it, success breeds success for Force.
Well, that's right, and another thing that drives him crazy, John has not only won 2 races this year, the 3rd race was won by his team car, Tony Pedregon in Pomona. They have the luxury of trying things on Pedregon's car. If they work, they translate right over onto Force's machine. And you can see why they're a little discouraged, but guys, come on.
John will be up racing here in just a moment or so, but time for us to crank it up with Whit Bazemore and Del Worsham. Whit was the #1 qualifier in Gainesville. Of course, Del Worsham, that Checker, Shucks, and Cragen machine, started in Nitro car. He's not known anything other than this.
Oh, that's true. And Whit Bazemore, interesting story here. He is driving the Chuck Etchells Kendall car instead of his own because he could not replace the Winston sponsorship he lost last year. So he and Etchells formed an alliance of sort, Whit bringing along some associate sponsors, and all in all, it makes it possible for both of them to race. Then there is Del Worsham, a beach kid from Southern California, just 29 years of age, former Rookie of the Year. And his dad, Chuck, is co-owner of the car along with Del and is the crew chief. They do a fabulous job with the Checker, Shucks, and Cragen automobile. Oh, baby.
Del and Chuck are advancing, best of friends. They beat Whit Bazemore. The smoke came bubbling out of that Chuck Etchells owned machine. So Del Worsham is going to advance. And watch just past half track. That's where it changes.
Yeah, I would say that the Etchells car, the Kendall car, was favored in this race. But right about here, it starts mixing up cylinders, dropping cylinders. Every cylinder you lose is like losing 700 horsepower. And pretty soon, Del, with a nice conservative tune-up, just motored on by. See ya.
One more ride with Whit Bazemore. And look out the left of the screen. That's the worst sight a driver can see. The other guy going on by. So Del Worsham is going to advance. He'll be in the semifinals. Next up for us here in round number 2, though, is going to be that matchup. Tim Wilkerson driving the John Costanza Institute of Technology car and the Interstate Batteries entry, the Firebird for Cruz Pedregon.
This is a very important racetrack for Cruz. He won his first ever NHRA national event in 1992 right here, and then as a rookie went on to win the Winston Championship, the only year in the 90s that John Force hasn't dominated.
Cruz won a sportsman event here back in 1988 in the inaugural O'Reilly Nationals.
And here is, it's a cliche, I guess, but a win looking for a place to happen. Tim Wilkerson has been in a number of final rounds, yet to win one. Service station operator out of Springfield, Illinois, the land of Lincoln, the JCIT car, John Costanza Institute of Technology. race of the day in funny car.
Great battle. Give it to Cruz by inches. A 93 with a 1 to a 93 with a 6.
Just an incredible drag race. Cruz Pedregon got a little sideways coming out of the gate. You see that, Eli? But he instantly got it back into the groove. That was so important. That was crucial to winning this race. The car moving around. As they drop cylinders, it steers the car. Drop a cylinder to the left, it steers to the left, and conversely.
Wilkerson has the hole shot on the left, and watch him. That little bit of wiggle there is all potentially the difference was at the finish line.
You've really got to muscle a funny car down right. See it dropping the cylinder, and it wants to steer the car into the wall. Nice job, Cruiser.
Great battle right there. Well, little extra flame there as Cruz helps direct the safety safari to take care of the cleanup. The best safety crew going, that safety safari. And there's the best driver going, John Force. He's next when we come back. Along with Steve Evans, I'm Eli Gold, back just outside of Houston in Baytown, Texas, Houston Raceway Park. Glad you're tuned in. Dean Scusa and John Force set to go here in the continuation of round 2 of funny car competition.
And no one does a longer burnout than Dean Scusa. Enjoy.
What's the deal? Why do some guys go half track all the way down to one? Why do some guys just do a short little burnout?
It is called show business. The crew chiefs hate it, but Dean Scusa, that's kind of his little signature. John Force used to do it. He is now the king of the burnouts. A young man from Brecksville, Ohio, just 32. And he's got a couple of wins under his belt. Dean Scusa is a tough customer. Ronnie Swearings and the crews on that car learned from Austin Coyle, John Force's crew chief.
Both guys have new bullets in their cars after problems in round number 1. Look at this right here. You talk about why you put a new bullet in, a new power plant. Look at how those speeds have gone.
Jim Epler, the first to run that 300.4 back in '93, and it's just taken off like a skyrocket. But John Force up against Dean Scusa. This could be a good one. The fans are on their feet. I guarantee you. John likes the left-hand or near side of the racetrack. He has lane choice from the previous round.
John is still using that 4-disc clutch. Others are using the 5-disc.
Some are. Scusa's had a rotten weekend so far. He needs to do something good here.
Scusa has the edge, but not nearly enough. John Force grabs the win, but look at the RT, the reaction time. Scusa beat him by 100th.
And I'll tell you something else. John Force blew that motor up right at the finish line. Maybe we can see a flash of it here in this replay. Force car is just stuck. It goes perfectly straight, as Al Hoffman was saying earlier. He's awful tough to beat. But right about here, he starts having engine problems. And Force has broken about 3 motors already this weekend, and that was yet another one. Little fire just underneath the car.
Kind of reminds you 1992 had all those little fires underneath the car, but there's an interesting look right here.
Yeah, that guard goes over his hands when the car does get on fire, protects...
Look at that, the blower belt's gone.
The blower belt is gone, but something caused that belt to come off. This motor just seized up and the belt took a hike. I mean, it's got the connecting rods out the bottom. There's a hole somewhere in that engine block. That's the worst that can happen. Gary
Densham, Tony Pedregon set to go here upcoming. Tony beat Jim Epler in the opening round. Densham with a win over Creasy Jr. Peanut.
Yeah. Now, Tony Pedregon won this race last year in a dramatic final against the boss, John Force. At the time, it was the quickest side-by-side funny car race in history. Gary Densham, the NEC car out of Southern California, an auto shop teacher, races a nitro funny car. That's because they can do so much of the work themselves. They can make a lot of their own parts. They scavenge what they can. He's never won a national event, but he's come so close.
Here's the rematch of the Pomona Finals.
And the result is going to be absolutely the same. It is Tony Pedregon in the Force test vehicle, as they call it, at a 492, 310 miles an hour. One more look. Densham is right on the mark. Great driving by both of them. But Tony, with the new 5-disc clutch, has the advantage over Densham. Densham still has the now antiquated 4-disc model.
Tony's dad, Frank, had the 2-disc clutch when he raced.
Sure, back in the 60s.
Uh-huh. Tell you, that's become the phrase in the pit area. The 5-disc clutch versus the 4 versus the old 2. That's all they're talking about nowadays in the technical end of things. And yep, it's a brother matchup upcoming in the semis you'll be seeing a little bit later on. So let's bring you up to speed on who's where and what. Here's how the ladder looks in funny car.
It'll be John Force up against Del Worsham. Force obviously will have the lane choice. And Tony just got lane choice over his brother Cruz.
Now time for a nitrospective here on TNN Motorsports.
You know, the winningest funny car driver of last season was not John Force. It was this man, Ron Capps, celebrating there one of his 5 victories in 7 final rounds. They haven't had a good season, haven't gone far in eliminations, but here at Houston, disaster struck. Ron Capps failed to even qualify. See how violent the car was? That happened on every single run.
But it makes no sense. Ron Capps can drive. Don Prudhomme's a great owner. Roland Leon can turn the wrenches. It won't behave.
We fought it all weekend long. It's doing things like lifting the front end up there at 300 feet. And, I mean, it shows it's got a lot of power, but it's kind of hard to drive when your front tires aren't touching the ground. But, you know, we had a great year last year, and we got to keep our heads up here and get through this.
Another huge story. Gary Selzy, 1997-98 NHRA Winston champion, set both ends of the national record here at Houston just last year, was turning cartwheels for 2 seasons. Not here this weekend. Only 18 cars qualified for a 16-car field, and Selzy missed the cut. And you can see why. Here, he did a beautiful job of pedaling the car. This was his final qualifying run. A $2 air fitting broke off, not allowing the clutch to completely hook up.
And this after being eliminated in first round eliminations in the first 3 events of the season. So Team Winston, as strong as they are, as you'd expect them to be, just not running well. Gary, what's going on here?
I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm at a loss for words. I mean, I feel like I've been kicked in the chest, but we'll be back. Team Winston, I mean, we're 2-time Winston champion, and we're going to show why.
And they'll start testing tomorrow morning right here at Houston until they get it right.
Meanwhile, we're going to be heading on to outside Richmond, Virginia. Our next stop here on TNN Motorsports, the Pennzoil Nationals. Hope you can tune in Sunday, May 9th for our broadcast coverage. That is not a waterfall. That's Doug Herbert mixing the fuel. He's got 100,000 reasons why he wants to get it just right. The No Bull Challenge could be his later. Back in Houston, the final 8 in top fuel. That's how it all shakes out for you. Vandergriff and Hill set to go here as we continue round 2 competition now. Eddie Hill, the local favorite. Burnout time. Watch Eddie Hill here. See if our camera picks it up from the rear. Watch what the tires do. See that?
At RPM, the tires get taller and they get narrower. And it's not just on the burnout. They do the same thing going down the racetrack. It's actually like having a taller rear end ratio as you go down. Without those tires growing over a foot, they probably wouldn't run 300 miles an hour.
And Bob Vandergriff, remember that wheel stand and the flat tires he had earlier? Trying to overcome some tire shape. They've had that problem all season long. They tested at Phoenix. Oh, and by the way, Eddie Hill and Ursi, do you see the kids with them this week from the Ronald McDonald House in Galveston? Great to see those kids here with Eddie and Ursi this weekend.
So much for Eddie Hill. The crowd moans. Bob Vandergriff's fans are cheering. A beautiful 456 at 322 miles an hour as Vandergriff and crew come back from that wheel stand. Eddie Hill didn't roll 2 feet before there was a clutch malfunction. Look at that. Sideways Eddie. Vandergriff, nice pass.
So Vandergriff advances. He'll face either Schumacher or Dixon in the next round, and Bob Fry, he's in the pits. Let's check with him.
Drag racing is a great sport. It combines quickness with power and speed. We have a monster matchup coming up in round number 2. Tony Schumacher driving the Exide car, the world's fastest car, going against Larry Dixon, the world record holder in the quickest car. Tony, a little something to prove here, some bragging rights in this next round?
Absolutely. This is an important round. You know, Larry Dixon's ahead of us, and he goes out, and we were really looking forward to being the first of the 40s, but congratulations to their team. However, we were low ET of that round. We have lane choice, and we're going to stick them in the right lane, so we'll see what happens.
How important is it to show him that speed is what wins races?
Oh, it's very important. You know, everyone knows that the 330 is an awesome run, but the 50 and the 50s and the 60s is what wins races. He obviously proved that qualifying number 1. Now, it's huge to put the number 1 car out early in the race.
It'll be very intriguing coming in the next race. For those of you that like numbers, Larry Dixon, the new world record holder at 4.48 seconds. Tony Schumacher driving the only 330-mile-per-hour missile in the world.
Bob, thanks a lot. Doug Herbert and Joe Amato upcoming here. Amato has lane choice. I don't know how much lane choice really has been meaning so far here this weekend.
More psychological than anything else. Okay, that is the car to beat in my humble opinion, and I will tell you why. In qualifying yesterday, heat of the day, no one could go down the racetrack. Joe Amato, 451, top speed of the meet at 324 miles an hour. In many ways, more impressive than the 448. There's the Snap-on Tools team of Doug Herbert. That $100,000, Dougie could use the money.
It's that Winston No Bull Challenge. If Doug Herbert wins today, he's got $100,000. Maybe someone go to that guy in the foreground, Dick LaHaye, his crew chief. Herbert and Amato. Could be the best race of the day. It is the best race of the day. Herbert by inches. Doug Herbert, 465 to the 64. But it all came out of the lights.
That's right. A better reaction time for Doug Herbert on the left-hand side of your screen. And Amato started to pull away until the motor went south.
About 1,000-foot mark or so.
Look at it dropping cylinders, steering him all over the racetrack, and that's where Herbert just did get him.
And
Whoa.
for Herbert, a conservative, smooth, Dick LaHaye kind of run.
And this is how close it was when Herbert lost $100,000 in the final round of Mike Dunn at Gainesville.
Back to Bob.
The Snap-on Tools car has now won 5 out of your last 6 rounds of competition, and I know you're thinking about every round, but that 100,000 is a nice little carrot out there too.
It's just a nice little carrot dangling out there in front of us. I'll tell you what, it's pretty nice for Winston guys to put up that 100,000, and the chances are kind of slim of winning that drawing, but wow, 2 weeks in a row. I'm going to go to Vegas next week, I think. But Snap-on guys and Dick LaHaye and Frazier and all these guys, they're doing a great job. We're just excited.
Doug hasn't read the fine print in that if you lose it 2 races in a row, you can never play again. Never.
Nice little carrot. Heck, you could buy the vegetable section for $100,000 and then some. It is the fast and the quick. Dixon Schumacher next when we return. We are back with you under beautiful sunny skies here in Baytown, Texas, just about 30 miles outside of Houston. Eli Gold, Steve Evans, and the best of NHRA Winston drag racing, and that means Larry Dixon with Quick ET and Tony Schumacher, the fastest lap ever run, head-to-head here in eliminations.
And Tony Schumacher had the confidence to come into this race with a brand new untested race car. And it has proven to be the proper decision. Notice that giant carbon fiber fuel injector on top of the supercharger, on top of the 500 cubic inch hemispherical motor. That's the limit, 500. Larry Dixon has very similar combination.
A conservative style car, if you will, versus that new tall car for Schumacher. But whatever they're running, look at that. Almost 11 years to the day. Look how those ETs have dropped.
Eddie Hill was first in the 4s, first in the 440s. Larry Dixon took 3 years to get out of the 50s. Neat graph.
Shows exactly how the best mechanics in the world can do their work.
So Schumacher had lane choice, and he likes the near side. He's not alone in that. Dixon has run that far lane half of the times he's gone on the racetrack, so he's no stranger to it in the True to Texas car.
Set that ET record from that lane in qualifying.
Yep.
This one's over. Up in smoke goes Dixon. Lost traction. Schumacher advances. There are the numbers. Not near his 330, but who cares? He's moved on.
Watch Dixon in the far lane. Good launch, and about 100 feet out, just blows the tires right off it. A combination of possibly bringing that second stage of the clutch in a little too early, or being a bit out of shape like that. When you get the car rocking, you're running on less of a footprint.
So Schumacher with that new tall car will advance. He, Amato, and Vandergriff have that new tall car style here this weekend.
Unbelievable.
That pretty well summed it up.
One word says all. Kenny Bernstein and Corey McClenathan.
Now, Corey McClenathan in the near lane had one of those taller, big, ugly cars, as I was calling them before they went so fast. But he rubbed the shiny off it in Gainesville a few weeks ago. I mean, crashed it right into the fence. So this is a backup car out of the trailer that won 2 races last year, though. Kenny Bernstein, he's got the big iron for the Bud King. The first to run over 300 miles an hour back in '92.
Humid day here in Houston today. Most of the teams using 98% nitromethane, just a couple of small beakers of alcohol. And while these guys get set to go, there's a look at Corey Mack's numbers. Steve, take us through all this talk about the 5-disc clutch. I'm not the most mechanically suited. What does it do? How does it differ? Where is it housed?
Well, it's housed in the bell housing on the back of the motor, an explosion-proof bell housing right there. Now, back in the 50s, they had one disc, just like cars do today on the street. Then they added 2 in the 60s, about 3 in the 70s, with a steel floater plate between each disc. As horsepower went up, they had to have more clutch. You top it off with this pressure plate that has 18 levers on it, arranged in a spiral staircase fashion, and there's a air-controlled cannon that restrains those. The first 4 hit right up the starting line, and then in 5 separate stages, the crew chiefs can control, the clutch comes in.
Near lane, Corey Mack.
Whoa!
It's a pedal fest. Bernstein normally wins these.
I love this.
Not today. Corey McLenithan, in a true pedal fest, beats Kenny Bernstein, and normally that's a gimme for KB.
KB, as a veteran, has the patience usually to let the car settle down a little bit, get it aimed straight, and then nail it. Here, maybe he got a little over anxious. Watch him. See how fast he's back on the throttle. Of course, he can see Corey.
Corey's
there he lets it settle
everywhere.
down.
Yeah. It just never does hook up.
Well, see, even though the tires are smoking, those clutch stages I talked about keep hitting. The clutch is stupid. It doesn't know that's all going on. It just keeps putting more power down.
So Corey McLenithan will advance. He will meet Doug Herbert in the semifinals. Let's bring you up to speed again on the ladder. If you're just tuning in, here's who's still alive in the O'Reilly Nationals, presented by Pennzoil. Schumacher and Vandergrift, McLenithan and Herbert. Record crowd on hand here. A lot of fans, a lot of families. The interactive area, the Junior Dragster program in full swing.
It's called the Manufacturers Midway, and it's always worth a visit.
There's a future Corey Mack right there. Hope to see you at an NHRA Winston drag racing event coming up. But don't leave us now. We're coming right back in just a couple of moments on TNN. Jam-packed to the gills. A great look at Houston Raceway Park on this beautiful afternoon. Eli Gold, Steve Evans, Bob Fry with you here on TNN Motorsports. Haven't seen the Pro Stockers. There they are. And yes, the Professor, Warren Johnson, already in the semifinals. He's had himself a good weekend so far.
Well, now, but at Gainesville, the last race, he not only won it, he set the national record both ends and recorded 6 200-mile-an-hour blasts in one weekend.
Unheard of, huh?
Unheard of. Even Warren's never done that before. In round number 2, he was up against his old crew chief, Greg Anderson, in a number 2 car fielded by Bob Powell. And that little sachet right there might have cost Anderson this race. It's a beauty.
Good run right there, but KJ's daddy, how about that for a turn on things? KJ's daddy, Warren, just pulls away at the far end and takes it by that much of a margin. Good close competition in Pro Stock. Now, Warren Johnson, will face the winner of Mike Edwards and Richie Stevens. Edwards, the winner at IRP last year. Look at that jump he gets.
Oh, 7/100ths of a second off the starting line. Unbelievable for Mike Edwards. He may be the most feared driver in Pro Stock reaction time-wise.
That was a remarkable jump right out of the lights as soon as that Christmas tree went green. And yes, Kurt Johnson is here. He's already in the semifinals. He'll be facing Mike Edwards a bit later on in the competition. How'd he get there? With a decisive win over Mark Powick.
That's right. Powick having a great weekend. Qualified well with both of his cars, but unfortunately packs it up after round number 2. Kurt took him out.
That whole family operation is just remarkably strong. Now, Jim Yates, Mike Trumbull from Pasadena, Texas, the Dick Sherman car.
And Trumbull, a rookie in Pro Stock, comes out of the very tough competition eliminator ranks.
And Yates, he was going for that no bull challenge from Winston on the Pro Stock side of things.
Well, Mr. Trumbull stops Mr. Yates from picking up a potential $50,000 by the nose of that Pontiac.
So let's take a look at who qualified where earlier today in Pro Stock competition. Top 16. There you see the names. Jeg Coughlin is there. His brother's not.
And Jeg got punted out of here first round.
Greg Anderson took care of him. So the ladder looks like this as we move on towards the semifinals. Warren Johnson, Kurt Johnson, Edwards and Trumbull trying to spoil their day. Let's see what Warren Johnson can do against Mike Edwards right here. The
Pro Stock car is really quite a package. 2,350 pounds, 500 cubic inches, 2 big 4-barrel carburetors, a 5-speed transmission that this year has to be shifted manually, and nobody does it much better than Warren Johnson. And in the tank, 114 octane racing gasoline, and these cars are weighed and fuel checked every time they win.
Only 6 gallons, though, in that fuel cell as Mike Edwards is in, and having qualified only the first time this year. First time he's made the field of 16.
The U.S. Nationals winner from last year, and we saw what he did in the previous round on the tree to Richie Stevens, a 20-year-old kid.
The odds are stacked for WJ, though.
Oh, yeah. Heavy favorite here. Hey, a little staging battle. Warren always likes to stage last. Let's see if he gets his way. No!
He commits. Mike Edwards, do we have enough?
Yes!
How about it? Mike Edwards upsets Warren Johnson.
Look at the reaction time difference. 0.05 of a second. Sometimes I wonder if Warren Johnson isn't so consumed by the automobile, being the engineer that he is, that he neglects his driving just a little bit.
You know, as good as Warren Johnson is, imagine if he had consistently good hole shots.
Oh, he'd be a 9-time Winston World Champion. Man.
Oh, you could have gotten my money on this one. Great battle right there. So Mike Edwards will advance. Yeah, even the crew didn't necessarily think it was coming. Bob Fry is at the far end. Mike Edwards is climbing out of his pro stocker. Here's Bob.
Mike, I know it's certainly not as emotional as that Indy win, but whatever you guys been through here at the start of the season, to win that thing on a hole shot, that's got to be pretty cool.
Yeah, this is really definitely a turnaround for our season, Bob. We've struggled all year long, and this is a great turnaround. I only thank one person. That's my God. Thank you.
The man said a mouthful right there as Mike Edwards will advance against one of these two, Kurt Johnson and Mike Trumbull. KJ and Trumbull in that Dick Sherman car. There he is.
Mike Trumbull Jr., as you said, from Pasadena, Texas, not far at all from Houston. And he took over that ride for Mark Osborne, who's kind of semi-retired in the pro stock trucks. And there is KJ, who is leading the points and can pad that lead by 20 points with a victory here.
And there's problems there. What are they doing there? Had problems during the burnout for Trumbull.
Yep. It'll be a single for Kurt Johnson. This seldom happens in pro stock. They're very reliable automobiles. So starter Rick Stewart will be giving the signal to Kurt Johnson that he's got that bye run.
And regardless, there's Stewart in the foreground, regardless of what happens to Kurt Johnson, he can go across the center line. They automatically throw the red light in the other lane when the guy's not there.
That's right. You can't foul a phantom.
Ooh, I like that.
It's not an original.
You'll take credit, though. I know you.
So Kurt Johnson holds the little button on the shifter that locks those front wheels, called the line lock, brings the RPMs up. It's a 2-stage rev limiter. First stage, restarting. Second stage, will not let the motor. Oh, whoa, you saw that car come almost off the ground. Oh, Trumbull's got to look at it and say, oh, no, it was mine.
11 seconds roughly. We'll wait for the numbers to come up here. Almost 12 seconds on the run. 11.419 to be exact. But it's enough to get you into the finals.
Well, that car was plenty strange on that one.
So we're not going to have a Johnson & Johnson final in pro stock. You see the ladder. But on the other side of the fence, over in Funny Car, we do have a family get-together. Pedregon versus Pedregon and Bob Fry.
Bruce Pedregon has his brother in the next round. He has lane choice, but the cars seem to be pretty evenly matched. But I got to ask you, running your brother, get you extra pumped up?
No, not really, not anymore. You know, in the beginning I did, but you know, I learned through trial and error, running your own race is the best way. It's the best thing. But you know, I'm happy for Tony. He made the semis. I didn't even know until you said that. But it's going to be a good race. You know, the Interstate Pontiac's been it's a heavy car. I've been saying that in my interviews. About 100 pounds. But Wes and the guys have been doing a good job making it down the track, and hopefully it can run an 80, because we're probably going to need an 80 to win.
Chris Pedregon said the car's about 100 pounds heavy. They weigh these cars with the drivers in it. What do you think? I could save him 100 pounds real easy. No problem here, man. Put me in that car.
Bob, if you were in that car, you would be on the horns of a dilemma. Don't do it, my friend. We'll be right back. The Funny Cars are set to rumble as we welcome you back. TNN's coverage from Houston Raceway Park, just outside of Houston, Texas, in Baytown, about 30 miles from downtown Houston. Here's how the Funny Car ladder looks right now. John Force, Del Worsham, Tony Pedregon is here, Cruz Pedregon is here, I'm Eli Gold along with Steve Evans. We too are here as we get set for the So What Else's new division of NHRA competition. John Force, quickest, fastest, he's the man.
Well, I've never seen anything like the funny car pits this weekend. It's like everybody's defeated. They're already conceding the season to John and Tony. I mean, we got 18 more races to go. They're only human. Their crews are human. Guys, get your confidence back. But one driver who's not whining about Force is Cruz Pedregon.
He's always strong, draws his brother in the semifinal round. Let's pick up the action. These two fellas were the winners here a year ago when the NHRA came calling for their two events, Cruz Pedregon and Tony.
What are the odds of one family producing 3 professional funny car drivers, all of whom have won national events, and all 3 of which were qualified here this weekend? Frank, Tony, and Cruz.
Well,
unbelievable.
when your daddy's a champion, I guess the odds are pretty darn good, actually. There is Tony Pedregon, runner-up to John Force for the 96 and 97 Winston Championships.
See that shield right there? That's something John created in this class. It pulls down over your hands, and the fire should get past the firewall. It protects your hands in those gloves. He won it a year ago. Can he do it again? He's got 2 more rounds to make that happen. These two come in 1/100th of a second apart from the previous round. Tony had lane choice, and you can see where he is. Near lane, the Syntec car.
Up in smoke goes Cruz, lost the traction. Tony Pedregon goes to the finals. Could well be an all John Force Motorsport final. Not jumping the gun, but it's a good likelihood.
Watch Cruz in the far lane, the green interstate car. It never really got settled down. It came off of the mark. It rocked to the left, it rocked a little bit to the right, and it got progressively worse to where it never really got up on the tire, as they say. It was just confused, didn't know what it wanted to do, except finally smoked the tires.
And you can just imagine what Cruz is doing in that car, just wrestling that steering wheel back and forth.
Yep, doing everything he possibly can, but it's not enough.
You really do have to drive these funny cars. You're not just along for the ride.
Much more so than a top fuel dragster. They take finesse, these things take muscle.
There's Tony, he's in the finals.
For the 3rd year in a row. The two brothers exchanging words. He did put the rods out of it. I would tell you, John Force has had tremendous mechanical damage this weekend in both these cars. Whatever he makes, he will have spent twice that. The rods that connect the pistons to the crankshaft, when they break, lots of damage. And there's a great headshot of John Force. Does that say everything you need to know about John Force?
He's here, he's happy, but so's Del Worsham. Checker, Shucks, and Craig in entry.
Ooh, aggressive burnout.
You like that?
You bet. I love the cackle of nitro at any time of the day. You know, John Force lives life at 300 miles an hour, not just on the racetrack. I don't know when he sleeps. He never stops. He's either on the phone or on an airplane making a speech, but he's got a huge overhead. His payroll has got to be $30,000, $40,000 a week. There you see the 2 required parachutes in the fireproof packs.
John Force, Yorba Linda, California.
No, he lives at the airport. He visits Yorba Linda.
Had a lot of plates left over that he needed to use, and still using, as we said earlier, that 4-disc clutch. There's young Del Worsham. You and I were in the pits earlier today watching he and his dad working on that car, just smiling away.
A brand new car built by one of their crew guys, Grant Downing from New Zealand, and working well.
John Force just powers away.
Another new national world elapsed time record. He lowers it from a 79 to a 478.
4.788 at 317 miles an hour. This is just, no pun intended, just brute force.
And it wasn't a perfect run. Watch the rear tires. Right about there, a little wisp off the tires. Still ran a 78. Maybe Al Hoffman was right. Maybe there is a 60 in this car.
Well,
what happens when they put the 5-disc clutch in it?
It's going to be an all John Force Motorsport final. Right down Broadway, too. Look at that.
Unbelievable. Force clamoring out at the other end, and again they've hurt a motor. You can tell by the smoke. They're going to have to replace another bullet.
John doesn't care, though. He's in the finals.
Well, it's got the perfect link fuse, right? 4.78 seconds long, and boom.
Force and Tony Pedregon to settle it in Funny Car. We'll have it for you as our coverage continues. And don't forget, the No Bull Challenge still up for grabs. Getting set to go, semifinals of Top Fuel Eliminator. Corey Mack and Doug Herbert. Herbert, remember, drawn to compete for the Winston No Bull Challenge in Gainesville. And again here this weekend in Houston. Curious about the odds of being selected 2 races in a row. How about 1,024 to 1? You got to be lucky. On the racetrack, you got to be lucky in life. And behind the wheel we shall go with Doug Herbert. He knows what luck is all about.
We went to Topeka. We thought our chances were pretty good, and we went down there and brand new tire for no apparent reason. The tire came apart, and about the last thing I remember is the back end of the car coming around, and I pulled the chutes, and they've seen it on there, and they walked away. The car broke in half and spun around, went over the wall, the tallest wall in drag racing, took out that camera scaffolding. You know, all the television guys were on just a few minutes earlier. And boy, I'll tell you what, I was out. Next thing I remember, I was waking up, and the guy goes, well, you're going for a ride in a helicopter. And I told him, I said, well, I always wanted to go for a helicopter ride.
And Steve, you were one of those guys on that tower there at Heartland Park just moments earlier.
Yep, sure was. It's hard to believe that Doug Herbert is only 31 years of age. Corey Mack making his burnout. Corey Mack, remember, the defending champion. Herbert started a mail-order speed equipment business in California when he was 19. Moved it to North Carolina, got married. Now he's got 3 kids and all this stuff. But he's still only 31. He was the second to run 300. Man, what's going to happen when he's 41? Oh.
Could be a much richer guy, Corey McClenathan. Just 36 years of age.
Corey lives in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. Lives from Orange County, California. Loves the peace and quiet of the desert. Loves water sports.
Herbert had a career best here last fall. 4.641 at 317, losing to Gary Selzy that day. New engine for Corey Mack, same engine all day for Herbert. Let's see what happens. There goes the blower belt for Corey Mack. Herbert's in the finals.
Corey McClenathan had Doug Herbert beat. There's absolutely no doubt about it. He was driving away from him. But Dick LaHaye prepares a car that will go from one end of the track to the other. And that's what you've got to do.
That consistency we talked about. And again,
look at this.
For folks who are new to the sport, what likely will make a blower belt just go bye-bye like that?
Occasionally, it'll just be the belt breaking. But often it's a problem with the supercharger. It locks up or bangs a little bit. We didn't see any fire. Let's watch again. Left-hand side, that's Corey Mack, the long green and black MB&A dragster. The motor started to eat itself up a little bit and might have just seized the blower for a second.
Let's go to Bob Fry. He's at the far end.
Man, the big guy. 2 races in a row, 2 finals in a row, 2 shots at $100,000 in a row.
Just like you said, we better win it this time, and they won't give us another chance. I'll tell you what, I can't say enough. LaHaye and the Snap-on guys, Corey and Mike Green are doing an excellent job over there with their car, but we're happy to be here. I'll tell you what, we're happy to put that win light on. I'm stoked. We got to go up there and take their $100,000. Now, I know Winston wants to give it to us. I hope they got the check made out.
They want to give it to you, but I think they want you to earn it.
Well, if he does, it'll be against Tony Schumacher or Bob Vandergriff. Vandergriff still winless. Schumacher 4 finals already.
Been in 4 finals, but hasn't won any of them. Vandergriff was been in the finals of the U.S. Nationals and couldn't quite win it. There's that brand new
tall car.
Tall car.
You know, Kenny Bernstein says the reason they got the tall car, forget about the weight differential and the balance and what have you because of where the fuel cell is. He said it's because some of the old fuel pumps were sucking air because of the long style of fuel cell.
Bob Vandergrift, his company, ties in very well with his Jersey's activewear sponsorship. Another thing Joe Amato was telling me, they didn't build the tall car for aerodynamic advantages, but he thinks maybe there is some. He says very little air even comes into the cockpit, which means maybe it's cleaner around the motor and around those big rear tires.
Tony's dad, Don, so very proud of his sons. Just go fast, young man. Whatever happens, happens. Just go fast. Of course, Vandergriff has Ray Alley as his crew chief now, who used to work with Kenny Bernstein and Kristen Powell. That's Schumacher on the far side, the X-side machine. Jerseys on the near lane, Bob Vandergriff. The winner will face Doug Herbert.
Oh,
It'll
Vandergriff.
be Schumacher.
Vandergriff throws one away in a cloud of smoke. And Tony rockets to a 460. That's going to give him lane choice over Doug Herbert.
Right out of the box, the smoke. Let's go to Bob Fry.
His last national final round was right here in the state of Texas. You must love this place.
Absolutely. You know, we had a lot of hard times here. We come back last year at the end of the year with a brand new X-Side car. We go to the finals, smoking the tires, on fire. We come out here with this new Dan Olson 2 and X-Side. Same old car. Actually, it's a new car, the high body, but same old paint job. We come out here and go right back to the finals, man. What'd it run?
Got a 460.
460. That gives us lane choice. Fantastic. You know, Herbert's a tough competitor. He's going for the 100 grand, and we're going to try to take it away from him.
Oh, that's not very nice, is it?
That's racing.
Indeed it is. All's fair in love and war and racing. Schumacher and Herbert in the finals. We'll also see Funny Car and Pro Stock coming up next.
Good job, bud.
Welcome back, everybody. Time for the finals here on TNN. We're with you from Houston Raceway Park outside of Houston, Texas. Eli Gold, Steve Evans. We're set for all the division finals now. And one division we've not yet seen today, the Pro Stock trucks. They tell me that 43% of the vehicles sold in America today are trucks, no doubt contributing to the popularity of this new division.
Well, here in Texas, it might be more like 75% are trucks, judging by the reception this class has gotten in only its second year of competition. They're beautiful, they're fast, and the driver an important part. They're mainly shifted 4-speed trucks. Let's have a look.
Second year for the series. Finals down to Bob Pinella, Mark Osborne. That's how they have advanced to the final round here. Osborne, remember him from Pro Stock days.
Absolutely. In fact, Bob Pinella from Central California, longtime drag racer, second generation, really. Let's talk about these trucks a little bit. They are constructed very much like, if not almost identical to a Pro Stock car. However, they use a small block motor, 355 cubic inches. They could be Ford, Chevys, Mopars. You'll find all of them in the field. And even though they're smaller motors and two smaller 4-barrel carburetors and only 4-speed transmissions, they still generate over 800 horsepower. And even Mark Osborne told me after getting out of a Pro Stock making 12 or 1,300 horsepower, these are still a whole lot of fun.
Both Chevy trucks here. Pinella known for his great reaction time. That could be the difference right here.
Osborne looking to make it 2 in a row in the Pro Stock truck category. They only run 12 races a year.
You won at Gainesville.
Oh, beauty. Beauty.
And he wins in Houston. Osborne with the win just by inches, literally, over Bob Pinella. 2 straight wins, #1 in points.
Pinella had just a slight edge off the starting line. Not much to speak of. Both drivers doing well with those 4-speed transmissions, not missing a blow. Pinella right now knows he's in a little bit of trouble. Come on, baby. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Puts the whip to it. Not enough there. Mark Osborne will get the victory. 764, 176 miles an hour. Bob Fry.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Mark Osborne, this will get to be habit forming, son.
Yeah, Kevin Horst, the crew, the Kessner family, they got this truck running great. All I got to do is sit in the seat and drive it.
You had to worry about him because he'd been driving great in the other lane this weekend.
You know, the level of this competition is no different Pro Stock car, just different faces. It's tough out here.
Well, it may be different faces normally, but it's the same face in the winner's circle for the second race in a row.
Oh, Mark Osborne gets the win, and as we mentioned, he is #1 in points. Brad Jeter, Bob Pinella, who you saw moments ago, currently 3rd in the standings.
You know, if you would like to maximize your enjoyment of NHRA Winston drag racing, why not join the National Hot Rod Association? For under $60 a year, you get 48 issues of National Dragster magazine, the Bible of the sport. Get a really cool-looking NHRA pen, a decal for your car or truck. You get the rule book. Can't race without that. And if you call the 800 number on your screen, they will send you absolutely free a copy of the Diamond P Video Drag Racing 1997.
Many of these names will be in that video. The finals we've got going, Mike Edwards and Kurt Johnson upcoming here. This is the first all-Camaro final in Pro Stock since 1987, Englishtown, New Jersey. Remember Jerry Ekman in his old 87 Camaro defeated Bruce Allen in the 86 Camaro. And there is Warren Johnson, did not make it through to the finals. He's there watching. You know what's interesting? Kurt Johnson told us when he's racing his dad or even when he's not racing his dad, he says you can learn a lot from the mentor. We went behind the wheel with the Johnsons.
And when I'm going into the semifinal, final rounds or whatever, and he's had the, it's been unfortunate, he lost first or second round, he comes over there and I take everything in I can get from him. Tune me up, Dad. But nothing beats experience as far as tuning under different conditions, and that's what I've learned from him more than anything.
And let's not forget, this is a two-car team. It has been Kurt's job to take out the competition and get Daddy to the Winston Championship, something they've done the last couple of years. But with Kurt leading the points, if he continues to win and amass points, it may be Dad doing the blocking for Kurt to keep that money in the family.
So Kurt Johnson, he is a regular in the finals. Mike Edwards, he won at Dallas against Kurt Johnson, you might remember, with reaction time. First time he's in the finals, though, with a Camaro since he changed to that car early this season.
And Kurt knows it was Edwards who spanked Daddy earlier in the day and put him back in the pits. Edwards does not have a 6-second car. He has got a 7-second car, 7 flat, very best. He knows that. He's got to do it off the starting line.
Well, he's shown he can. Let's see what happens.
Are they going to play GameStop? Edwards away first.
Here comes the power of Johnson. Got him at the line. Kurt Johnson, 496 at 199 miles an hour. He's still #1 in points.
Yep, Edwards cut a 4.3 light, a 4.0 being perfect. And that's about as good a light as you can get without gambling, without just shutting your eyes and say, please, Lord, let it be green. That's as hard as you can push the tree. What a magnificent job of driving this weekend for Mike Edwards.
Did himself proud. Advanced Edwards did with the win over Warren Johnson earlier in the day.
It makes a little bit of a move.
Yeah, watch
the
this.
Edwards car does. Not a perfect run.
Not a perfect circle either, by the way.
Ooh, right there. That cost him probably 200s. Might not have made a difference in who won the race. But look at Warren. Here's Warren. Come on, boy. Come on, son.
Yeah, little emotion right there from the professor.
Oh, no, from him, that's a ton of emotion. That's over the top emotion.
So Kurt Johnson is a winner. He's climbing out of the AC Delco machine at the far end, and our indomitable reporter Bob Fry is there watching. Robert?
Kurt Johnson with a big win. The presentation from Jackie Beck, Miss Winston, and Chad Lakin from O'Reilly Auto Parts here with the championship hat and trophy. And congratulations, KJ, and I might add, the current Winston points leader.
Awesome. It just doesn't get any better than this. You know, this is a great day for Chevrolet. It's been a long time since we had 2 Pro Stock cars in the final. AC Delco, GM Performance Parts, AT Rapid Fire, everybody, all the people in Detroit, my wife Kathy, Connor, Aaron, everybody at home. Man, this is just a great day.
You saw a lot of that other Chevy for a while there, didn't you?
I did. We were making a real bad run over there, and we have had some luck today, believe me, but that's what it takes.
Well, it's all KJ's way today. Kurt Johnson, we mentioned he is leading the points. Bob reiterates that. How are they looking behind him? Well, they're looking at a distance behind him.
Yes, they are. Kurt Johnson's had a wonderful weekend. John Nobile holds on to the 10th spot, and that's as far as they'll pay down at the banquet at the end of the year, number 10.
Then there's John Force. He's set to strap on board the funny car. We'll have it for you when we come back to Houston. Well, we are set for Funny Car Eliminator Finals. John Force, Tony Pedregon. It's an all John Force Motorsports final again here today. Tony's excited about the opportunity of running the boss. John Force is the boss, and we had some time to go behind the wheel, where there is now more space and more room behind the wheel with the new svelte John Force.
I got real serious after Dallas, and I went on that diet, and it took me 4 or 5 months, and now I eat boring old dead chickens every day and fruit and bananas, and I carry food to my crew just so I can have the satisfaction of serving it up and carrying it over to them, and I feed them just so I can watch myself put plates together. It's a boring life unless you want to win.
Yeah, those old dead chickens.
Get you every time. Let's remember these two met in the final round last year. A lot of Force's competitors who were already out were saying, How's Tony going to lose this time? What new way did he invent to lose? Tony whipped him in the quickest side-by-side funny cars of all time.
And I think we mentioned at Phoenix, now that they've got their really own separate money, separate operations under the one corporate banner, but they're racing for real.
More so this year than ever. There have been times in the past when Tony did his job as a blocker for John and took a dive here and there, but when you see the individual crew members in the pits making side bets before the final, you know this is straight up.
John Force seeking his 5th victory at Houston Raceway Park. He has won 72 times in 224 races. If you don't have your abacus out, that's a victory every 3.1 starts. John Force, Tony Pedregon.
Oh, Tony's out of it.
John Force cruises to the win.
Does he reset the world record once again? No, but he blows up another motor.
Still leads, though, in points and gets a 20-point bonus for earlier ET numbers.
That's right. Unbelievable. Look at Tony. I mean, that was a clutch malfunction, something, and kind of a bang out of motor as well.
Yeah, to break that quickly right off the line, something went bye-bye in a hurry. Right off, as soon as the lights went green, this race was over. Let's go back to Bob Fry. He's with John Force.
Man, John, for a moment there, I thought it was 1992 all over again.
Man, we have fires every round. Makes it kind of exciting, but boy, I think we put 6 motors down, driving around the back door and bouncing real hard in the lights when I shut her off down there. I don't know what's happening, but I don't know what happened to Tony, but we're excited for all the sponsors, Castrol and Syntec. They had both cars in the final. Here's a kid right here. What'd you get loose?
Yeah.
Boy, you staged fast.
Oh, didn't have enough time to fix it, and we had a problem with the clutch. And I told him, but there ain't a whole lot you can do about it. But not a bad old day for Castro.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well,
oh, the kid in the other lane trying to quick stage you there?
Yeah, I don't know. He went in quick, but we're just excited. There'll be a new action collectible coming. Everybody will be talking about it. Real exciting idea from Fred Wagonall. You'll be reading it in DC Comics. So to all the sponsors, Mac Tool and Vistion, everybody, all pro bumper to bumper, we love you, and thanks for everything.
Oh, it'll be interesting. John Force, drag racing's answer to Superman.
One of those collectible busts of Steve Evans coming out.
Oh, yeah, real soon. I'll tell you, he is a marketing maven, that John Force. He never stops, and look at his points lead. That doesn't stop increasing either.
Looking for number 9 in funny car competition. And old Corey Lee hanging in there, limited financing, but in the number 10 spot. Speaking of financing, that guy could have 100,000 more when he leaves here today.
Tony Schumacher would advance into the championship round, taking on Doug Herbert. Herbert, little deja vu, $100,000 worth. Let it get away in Gainesville. Chance to win it right here. 6 figures riding on the snap-on car in the far lane. Schumacher blazed the tires, and Doug Herbert picks up the win, picks up the trophy, picks up 100,000 extra bucks. You think these guys are pumped?
I can't believe it took us 2 races. I'll tell you what, all the guys at RJR, this is great. They put up this for us, and I've got a lot of support for Snap-on Tools the last few years. Well, we've been struggling, but I'll tell you what, with Dick LaHaye and Larry Frazier and all these guys in this team, I'm losing my voice. There's nobody that's any better, I guarantee you. I just got to do my job. Maybe, hopefully, I can get better.
These guys must have known you were going to win it. The jacket's an extra large.
All right, that's good. Like they said if I didn't, well, just like you said, if I didn't win it the second time, I wasn't getting another chance.
Can't let those things slip away, Doug. Herbert, on the strength of 2 straight final rounds, moves into 2nd place, but Mike Dunn holds on to the lead after 4 races.